So I'm going to let Dave, 10 unless you want to start, but really Dave.
Yeah, I'd like Dave to report on the 2014 audit, and I might have some questions after that.
I'd be happy to report on it. The 2014 audit was just released today. We're very happy to report that we had a clean audit. There were no material misstatements in the financial statements or no problems with any of our federal programs. So we got the best opinion that you could possibly get. We got an unmodified opinion. I've handed out, there's a memo in front of you that talks about the audit, and I've also included the audit section of the report. So the audit was released as well, along with the 237-page CAP report in its entirety. It can be viewed on the OhioAuditor.gov website if you're interested in taking a look at that. Legislation-wise, they made one recommendation that we need to pass a policy about political activity and related parties. I've asked them for a sample that I'll be working with here in the near future to get out to you for approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Dave, can you just elaborate on that particular legislation?
I need to get the sample, and I'll be able to give you a little bit more information at that time once I've got a sample of it.
I think it's more of a standard type of policy that we should have, but don't have. It's not saying that there's something that we need to do, or it's just something we need to have. But they are saying we need to have that in our policies. But
we just need
not
to
more complete.
Right. There was no, with the audit, you had major findings. We didn't have any, which is really a good thing. And there's always some minor citations. Nothing too major. Most of those, I hate to bore you with the details, but most of those we've already started resolving, or we're in the process of resolving it at this point.
Yeah, Greg, if I could, obviously, I'm extremely pleased with the audit from 2014 being a clean audit and really indicates significant improvement over our audits from 2012 and 2013. I'm certain council will join me in recognizing this accomplishment. Certainly, I'd like to thank Alyssa Kirker had started out in 2014, Stacy Williams, and of course Dave Lewis's efforts regarding the audit, and really all the department heads. It takes each and every one of them working within the requirements that are established for sound financial practices. They have done a tremendous job in that area, and again, we have a very positive result. So we're with the legislation that Dave mentioned, given the schedule, probably we would sunshine that on, I would imagine, September 1st. That would be the next sunshine meeting.
We have it
Next week would be next sunshine.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Yeah. All right.
Sorry.
Pull it up a little bit. August 25th.
Yeah, on there. And also, Tim, just to add on, we sat and the mayor was with you, Dave, and the auditors from the exit interview, and they did mention, even though we had some bit of turnover in the finance department office, Dave, you did a phenomenal job bridging the gap, and as well too, the previous finance directors did make it helpful and easy, and they had a very easy audit, and that's why we came through with good colors.
Yeah, I think when you have, you never like turnover, but if you do have turnover and you still are able to have a successful audit, I think it means we've got the policies and procedures in place to follow those, and we'll have good audits.
Any questions on the audit itself? And if there is, you could address them to Tim or to Dave, but it's now online. Is it on our website now, Frankie? No, it's just on the States.
Yeah.
It's on the States.
Yeah, it just got released, but
Okay.
I'm certain it's up there.
All right, great. The next thing we had then is the updated financial report. Council via email received last night an updated financial report for July. And Tim, I know we talked a little bit about this yesterday with how income tax should be up, and we discussed a lot about water collections and overtime. So I'm going to go ahead and let you get started, and then we'll go over each section. Thanks.
I'll try to summarize the report, but if there's any questions, please feel free to interrupt me, and I'll be happy to answer them. Income tax, last month we had quite a jump in revenues. This month we've had a bit of a retrenchment, still moving in a positive direction over 2013 and 2014. Our collections at this time last year were just a little bit over $5 million. Currently they're a little over about $5.22 million. Overall, we're up about 3% for 2015 as compared to 2014. It's about $153,000. The positive trends, though, have continued throughout the first half of 2015 and now into third quarter. They're holding firm. I think a positive trend I've noted is that there's been a decline in the overall rate of expenditures. I first noted that in June, and it has improved again in July. What that is typically at the beginning of the year, a number of projects are done. Looking at it on a calendar year, of course, we should be about 58% of our budget should be used if you're doing it just a straight calendar analysis. But expenditures in reality tend to be higher at the beginning of the year. Now as we move into the third and fourth quarter, those major projects, initiatives have either been started or are completed. So we're beginning to shoot for the end of the year and keep a very tight rein on expenditures for the second half of the year. Overtime report, we are, again, it's streets, water distribution, water and sewer billing, and police are our areas that we need to monitor most closely. They have tended to come down a little bit as the year has gone forward. I think that police overtime is one that really hasn't, because we continue to expend those overtime funds for the additional hilltop patrols and having more attention focused on that area. I think we've seen, once the meter program, and we're at 75%, as that begins to wind down, I think we'll see water and sewer billing wind down, and a couple other areas as well. So nothing really too surprising in overtime. I think we just need to do a little tighter job of budgeting for overtime, looking at 2016, or reevaluating some of our priorities in terms of those and the sustainability of those additional overtime expenditures. So I'll have a few more comments on that as we go forward. Water and sewer.
Tim, before you go forward, I do want to ask you, we are going to keep the police where they're at this point for safety. I mean, we talked about that a few weeks ago. We talked about
right now it is. Again, I think that, as I mentioned in the last meeting, And, you know, I don't want to sugarcoat for council that we're just going to keep spending overtime at the rate that it's going. It's a difficult decision. I would say that our return on that investment of overtime of police in the hilltops has been very good. So we've gotten a return on that. That's always what you look at when you utilize your resources. You know, obviously we're out of budget. We're over budget, way over budget in that area, and we either have to cut other areas, or if we're going to bring it in, we're going to have to continue to evaluate that. That's, I guess, the most honest answer I can get.
Right, yeah, I think we need to keep it as.
And I understand that.
Potentially look at, talking with.
And I understand the gravity of the situation and the seriousness of it. Yeah, that's what makes it a difficult decision.
I know safety level is important to what you want to do with police, but I do think, in the near term, we need to keep the levels of staffing where they're at with the overtime, and maybe have to look at potentially, Willie, with the safety fund, if we need to bridge a little bit of overtime gap for the rest of the year, we need to. Safety's important. So that's my thoughts going forward. Tim, on that.
Water, sewer, and sanitation. Again, we're seeing positive trends with the on an annualized basis with the meters. In water, for only the second time for 2 consecutive months, our collections have been up in the positive in water, and I think it's reasonable to attribute that to our meters, and so we'll continue to monitor that. The water fund, still we're looking at a deficit next year of $380,000. I don't think we'll be able to obviously recoup all that through the meters just yet. It will take a little while to do that, but we're definitely on the right track with our new meters that are installed. Sewer is down, continues to be down in collections. As we mentioned at the last meeting, I think that's really attributable to some of our credit policies and how we've been utilizing that. As you'll see next Tuesday, we're going to have our policies and procedures for the utility committee to review, and that's one of the areas that we've addressed in terms of sewer. So I think we'll start to see more of a balance in between water and sewer shortly, or at least as soon as that is implemented. Refuse and sanitation. Refuse for 2015 is up about $38,000. At our August meeting, August 11th, Council might recall that there was a request made from the public for the sanitation fund for it to be spent on non-sanitation related projects, and to accomplish this through a court order. I did ask our law director to look into that issue. His response was as follows. As you know, I provided you with Ohio Revised Code section 5705.14, which defines what funds may be transferred. My initial opinion is that the city may not transfer funds from refuse fund to general fund, since the activities that are funded from the refuse fund are ongoing and have not been eliminated. I've encouraged Dave Lewis to reach out to the auditors to verify my belief. Mr. Lewis subsequently did that, and the response from the auditor was, your understanding is correct, that if this transfer were to occur, court approval would be needed, and this transfer could not be made until the monies in the fund are no longer being used. Once the services are no longer being provided, then the city can seek court approval for a transfer of the funds. So in essence, we can't transfer funds from our sanitation fund for non-sanitation purposes, as long as the activities that we are funding out of the sanitation fund still exist. As I mentioned, the sanitation fund is an ongoing fund. We see it being or sanitation services provided for the foreseeable future out of that fund. Even if we did redirect, such action would be unwise. Even if we could redirect those funds, I believe it would be unwise, since we're talking now and considering our sanitation operations modernization plan. Funds in the sanitation fund should be used for reinvestment into the sanitation and refuse operations, and it would be reasonable to anticipate the cost of such investment will be significant. So I hope that that issue's been addressed. Looking at the safety fund, we were talking about that a little bit. We currently are looking at about a $693,000 positive balance for 2015. As I mentioned before, if the wage tax is approved, the safety services wage tax, I anticipate that the city would be fiscally sound, we're in a fiscally sound position to apply for the COPS grant in 2016, and if approved, we would be able to add up to 2 new officers. If the safety services wage tax does not pass in November, the administration is proposing to fund 2 to 3 police officers out of safety fund in 2016 in order to relieve the pressure on the general fund. Each officer costs about $60,000 with benefits. So you're talking about $180,000 up to $200,000 to try to fund out of general fund or out of the safety fund if the safety services wage tax doesn't pass, in order to relieve the general fund. So that's a little bit of my concern. I've really resisted expenditures out of safety fund this year, because we may need to very much rely on it next year in order to maintain our current level in our police force.
Mr. Baldwin, if we could just back up for a minute for a point of clarification.
Yes,
you're indicating the safety services wage tax, if it's not passed in November, the administration is proposing to fund 2 to 3 officers out of the safety fund. Those 2 or 3 officers, correct me if I'm wrong, are not new hires. You're just asking for the safety fund to subsidize the general fund of 2 or 3 officers, the safety fund 2 or 3 officers. Is that correct?
that is correct.
If the wage tax is passed, then there's a proposal of possibly adding 2 new officers.
Yeah, I would hope it would be 3 new officers, Your Honor. But yes, you're absolutely correct. Safety wage tax, we can add officers. Without it, we have to find other ways to subsidize the way we're paying for our current staff. Looking at the general fund, again, that is the fund under most stress. I suppose water fund is to a certain extent, because that has a deficit position forecast next year, but general fund is forecast for that same deficit position a little bit more pronounced in 2017. Again, as we look at the safety wage tax, if that were to pass, we would be able to add officers and stabilize the general fund. I think that's an important point to make. Without it, the administration has looked at cuts and reductions in services up to $400,000 that would begin in 2016, continue into 2017, but that only delays our negative position in the general fund until 2018. Regarding health insurance, I did want to take a moment and touch on that. earlier this year in March, I stated that our budget levels weren't sufficient as established back in December 2014. Our initial increase in anticipated costs was primarily attributable to fluctuations in the number of enrollees that we had. Our estimates were based on 154 employees covered and actually 164 enrolled. However, at this point in the third quarter, that projected additional cost has declined because the number of employees has fluctuated. Our number of employees have declined to, last time I looked at 160 employees enrolled. It's not surprising that the number of enrollees and insurance costs fluctuate throughout any given year for any city. The law director and myself continue to question aspects of our wellness program offered by our insurance broker. However, the costs associated with the wellness program to date have not been as high as first anticipated, and it's really not been an issue, but not an issue at this point. It should be noted that Ohio Insurance Services has addressed operational issues with the plan. Most recently, an issue with urgent care claims, which, in my opinion, indicates an overall improvement in their servicing of our program and their level of service that we're providing. As you recall, we joined a consortium in anticipation of greater stability in our future rates and service. An example of stability is the fact that we will not have any increase in dental coverage in 2016. I see value in maintaining the city's relationship with our consortium, which runs through 2017. We should avoid any possible costs that the city would incur by terminating our membership without cause. Given those overall improving factors, I do not see any need to change insurance plans at this time. However, further cost reduction efforts are ongoing and right now are focused on a cost-effective design for an opt-out program. We're looking very seriously at that. And other cost reduction thoughts that I plan to share with council at a later date. I'm unable to share those right now because they would be related to collective bargaining. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Tim, my take on that subject, we did table some legislation a few weeks back, and that was because of what you were just stating tonight, and that legislation will stay on the table until the future because we were going to, at this point, stick with where we're at. And that's kind of the approach that you're giving us to basically leave it on the table and
Stay the course.
stay the course. That way council's aware of why we tabled that legislation.
Our water fund, I think I've already touched on that. Street fund, again, is very much related to the amount of grant funding that our engineering department is able to achieve. Water fund is still stable, and we have many good projects that we are currently planning for. One is, I would just mention, Loretta Drive should kick off in August and be completed in September. Over the last 6 years, we've had 29 water line breaks on Loretta. So I think that that is a very good project for us to pursue. Sewer fund, again, in a declining balance, but it is positive for 2019. Our biggest issue is working with EPA to make certain that their mandated projects fit our ability to pay for them. That's the financial report, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just going back to, we were talking about the sanitation fund. And again, next week we'll be hearing some more about the modernization program from Valbert. And also, that's also there for, and I know we've done a lot with the EPA with the landfill and such, but,
Right.
you know, that fund was developed basically to help close that landfill. And, you know, Mayor, you've been involved over the years with that. That's why that fund is as healthy as it is, to make sure that we had money there for it. And we also receive monies from the leasing of our property out there. So that's where that's at. Yes.
Tim, knowing that we had the projects that we had for the streets and the water projects, and also that we had an initiative to increase police participation on the hilltop area, is it possible that we budgeted too low for overtime?
Well, I think overall we did. I mean, obviously, if overtime is running as high as it is in those particular areas, then we probably could have done a more realistic, I suppose. But then again, hindsight's always is always perfect. I think the police, you know, we made that commitment. We were going to go ahead and do that. We needed to do that. So I suppose that was just one that we needed to absorb and move forward on. So overtime's a hard one. You know, the streets, the winter was another hard winter. We've had 2 hard winters in a row, though. So I think next year we ought to probably budget more overtime for a hard winter, and maybe we'll get lucky.
And that's the reason I brought that up, is we're going to be moving into the budget.
Yeah.
Can we look at it that way so it doesn't look like that we're in crisis, or that we know that that's a goal of ours, and to increase police awareness, so that means that we have to put more money into overtime. We need to look at that time, instead of looking like that we made a major mistake.
Agreed.
Because it's not.
It's not.
It was part of our goal.
It was a designed use for overtime. We knew that we would be significantly over. And again, it's any organization, you have to look at how you're investing your money, and we invested it in that, and we've gotten a good return on it.
Absolutely.
So I don't regret it at all.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't want it to look like that we're regretting because
No.
it's over. The other thing with that, I guess, that some of those issues will get hopefully resolved, because we're working on a lot of projects next year. I mean, we're working on a lot of projects this year that won't be done next year for the other departments, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, with the addition of the new Buena Vista, Loretta Drive improvement, and Scioto Drive, and I can't remember, are we doing Aberdeen? Pardon?
I believe it's on the horizon.
Yeah,
Okay. Those were our main areas, and I think we had 104.78% of overtime out of that water distribution. So come winter time, maybe we won't have all these breaks, which would relieve up more guys. That I remember talking with Bob Baird, that he would get a plan ready for the day when it's snowing, and he would use people from the water department, he would use people from the street department, because they all have CDLs. So he'd set up his schedule for afternoon turn. Bob works water department, so now Bob is taken off because he's got to go out on a water line break. There's one less guy to drive the truck that day, okay? So now, and that may be 2 guys. You might get flipped, you might get yonked. There might be 3 guys you're taking off because they're going to go to water line break. Now you have 3 less drivers to maintain our streets. I know that we have 3 CDL, number 2, what is it? 3 sanitation, number 2 with a CDL that we've never filled. And then there's the 1 maintenance worker, class 2 with a CDL, and the recreation department. So there's 4 openings. I saw earlier on someone that maybe you were going to talk about this tonight, or we're going to discuss this.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
If we don't fill them, could some of that money possibly go towards, I mean, I know you guys always, we can go to safety fund all the time. But can we also maybe think about, before we go to safety fund, if we don't get the 4 people that we need out of these CDL operators, can we go maybe, instead of hitting safety fund all the time? And I understand it's safety, and I agree, But we keep wanting to hit that thing, and I'm scared we're gonna, one day,
Yeah,
not have anything.
I too agree.
Yeah, that's why the levy is very important in the fall.
I understand that, Greg, I understand the levy, but I'm also looking at other ways, and I know that we had these 4 CDL drivers that we haven't filled yet. And I know Bob really does need them, but, we got through the summer without it. Hopefully, like you said, hopefully we don't have a bad winter, but only the Lord knows what's coming.
Right, and we had to prepare for it, and I agree, Willie, and I, as I mentioned earlier, have been very reluctant to go into safety fund, because I know that we may be relying on that in the future. So, I would agree.
But other than that, I just don't know what to say about the police. I mean, we need that presence out there.
Yes,
Agreed.
So, we gotta keep working on it, but right now, we just have to keep it up, and I just think that under finance, we need to continue to have the overtime for that. Well, the overtime, like you said, were water line breaks, which are not gonna be minimized. We had a bad winter, so Bob's crews were out there. Hopefully, the forecast for El Nino happened, and the weather is wet from California to Florida and drier up here. That would help his group and save us some overtime money next year. But like you said, it's got really on that side.
That really brings up an excellent point, because our investment in waterline repair and replacement, obviously, our most important concern is the service that we're providing to our residents, and 29 breaks on one street is not acceptable customer service. But it also certainly will help in terms of how we use our employees, our resources. As that number of main breaks continues to go down, we're less than half of where we were last year. So yeah, we should start to see that overtime number for water definitely start to go down.
And Tim, while we're on this subject, and Willie brought it up, I'd like to dovetail just into that. And I know Bob's here, I'm not sure if who wants to address that particular legislation, but since it's on the table now, let's talk about it. Because there will be legislation proposed next week to amend the TO to add a part-time CDO employees in the M&R department for snow and ice management activities. So that legislation will be addressed. So Tim, Dave, or Bob, I'm not sure.
Bob,
Address that.
your legislation that you proposed.
Yeah, your proposed legislation for us.
Sure. Is there where would you like me to begin? Is there a specific,
Just tell us, you want to add people, tell us what, why you want to add it and what we're going to use it for.
well, the idea there is, and Willie raised a good point. It begins with the fact that there simply aren't enough employees currently to do the job. We are, and council had been provided with some information previously that, staffing levels are reduced roughly 75% from what they had been. And the numbers, just plain mathematics, it simply doesn't work. There aren't enough people to drive the trucks to do the job. So as Councilman Paul mentioned, we make an effort to go to employees in other departments to supplement that staff to do that work. The obstacles involved in that are that obviously all those employees have their own jobs to do. And the example Councilman Paul gave, it's happened. We've made every effort to staff the work, and it's a function of the weather, because it's the weather. Who knows what it's going to be? It's a plan for the work and hope for the best kind of approach. You want to be able to sustain the effort for as long as it takes. Sometimes that stretches into 24, 36, 48 hours. Sometimes it ends after 24 or 36 and you get a 6 or 8 hour break and it starts all over again. So you really need to design for being able to sustain that effort for as long as you may need to, and you hope for the best. You hope you don't need to. But, so our concern is that there will come a time when the city's simply not able to perform the service. And should that moment come, that's a drastic moment for the city. That affects businesses, that affects the economy in a tremendous way, that affects whether schools open, that affects whether employees can get to work, that affects whether police cars can move, that affects whether fire trucks can move. Our geography plays a part because of the hilly terrain, obviously. This stuff gets away from us, and God knows when we get it back under control. So, back to the numbers. People are people, they're human, and everybody needs food and rest. And for us to sustain, for people to do that job nonstop for 24 or 36 hours is just unsafe and unrealistic. So as we go to other departments to try and supplement the staff, we encounter issues. All of those other employees have their regular job to do. And in the example given, when the line breaks are happening, those guys have to go. We have issues. We've got water flowing. In the winter it's even worse because now you have ice. We've also encountered some resistance from the union as far as getting that done. I think it's fair to say that the position right now is that anyone who's employed by the city that's not employed within the street department, I believe it's fair to say that the AFME union looks at that as optional or voluntary. So while we are grateful for the help that we get and greatly appreciate the hard work that the employees do, we also have an obstacle there where we can't be sure that we're going to get them. So when you start layering on the obstacles of being able to sustain the effort for as long as necessary, not having enough people to begin with, having other duties and responsibilities to the community out there that these employees, and they're up against it too, because you can, I'm sure know, when they're under fire, they're working 24, 36 hours, straight. They're going from break to break to break. So, in reviewing it, the best approach seems to be that, and the most affordable is that we can have some seasonal employees, some part-time seasonal employees to supplement the regular full-time staff, to alleviate that pressure and put us in a position where we have people available to do the job so that people can sleep, eat, and come back, so that we're safe. We're worried about our employees' safety. We're worried about the community safety, and we're just wanting to get to a position where we have some predictability and some level of comfort that we're in a position that we're going to be able to sustain the effort. Right now, I'll speak for myself. My heart's in my mouth every time because I don't know, and so that's where that's coming.
How many part-time are you looking at?
The number that we had recommended or suggested or requested was 16. And the reason I say that is we have approximately 12 snow routes within the city. When you take the routes that we drive, the areas of the city, the way it's broken up, and the number of trucks that we try to put on the road, we need to have 12 trucks out there with 12 drivers in there. And when you hit that 12-hour, 16-hour, 20, 24-hour mark, it's time to get out of that truck. And you need 12 more people to get into that truck and keep doing that job for as long as it takes. Hopefully no more than they can do their turn and get back out and let the first group back in. So our concern is that we hit that moment when we've expended our effort, Mother Nature has decided that she's not done, and we have nobody to put in the truck. So that's a bad moment, should that ever happen. So we've been battling it for a long time, and so that's that's where that comes from, so that when you take 12 trucks, 12 snow routes out there, you need to have 24 people almost at your disposal to keep that operation rolling for as long as you may need to. Back to the obstacles. You know, we have all these variables constantly coming out of left field, line breaks, guys have other jobs. It's depending on whether it's a weekday or a weekend, whether it's between the hours of 7 and 3 or after, and to be able to know that that job can be done, and that service can be provided to the community. We need that number to supplement our staff, which, as you know, currently we have 3 equipment operators and 6 drivers.
I guess to summarize, I think Bob Meads was asking for more capacity and flexibility as we go into this year.
And I understand that with the fact that you got guys working 24, 36 hours, we built that safety fund and workers' comp refunds and stuff, and I hate to see that loss. I hate to see also some of our people in here, et cetera, we're getting involved in order.
Are we at liberty right now to discuss how that will work? Are you just gonna have guys on call? Or are we gonna hire 16 part-time employees just through certain months that they're gonna do something, but I mean, how's that gonna work?
I think the idea is that, and I think it will warrant some discussion and fleshing out. Step one, obviously, is getting approval from council to create the positions, get the TO, give us the room to navigate so that we can pursue it. Ideally, we don't have a need for those employees unless it's snow. So what will happen is, and the way other communities do this and other agencies and other public and DOT type operations, is while you're working as it's snowing, you know, that it depends. You know, you're talking about 12-hour chunks of time. So that's actually 1.5 work days every time you're needed to come to work. So it adds up. So, you know, in a given week, if it snows, you know, there's 2 events or something, these would basically equal out to be like a part-time employee working somewhere in the neighborhood of about 24 hours. But our goal would be that they're available to work when needed and when weather dictates that they do.
Yeah, well, 2 things. Kenny asked part of what I wanted to ask, but if I'm part-time and I'm working for you guys and we get a good winter for the first part of the winter, now we're going to have a problem. You know, it's only my concern is we're going to have a problem at the end of the winter. I might find another job someplace where I can work full-time instead of a part-time status. That's the only problem that I see, unless we have some other kind of, and we might, you see where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I do, and that may happen, and that can happen anytime, anywhere, in any organization. I mean, you know, the people you have working for you can pursue a better opportunity. It's certainly a possibility.
And that leads me to the second part. The second part of it is, and me and you had this conversation, that's why I'm never very critical of the street department, because there's not too much to be critical of. First, you just don't have the manpower to do certain things, and it's just that simple. I mean, it's just that simple. Can we find a way, instead of, and I'm some part-time help, but I'm of the opinion that we got to find a way to get you a couple of full-time guys.
I'm not going to argue that.
I mean, and
You had them last year.
Yeah,
You had 3 guys, and you couldn't get them to come to work when you needed them, right?
that's part of it.
no, I mean full-time, like just.
They had full-time.
I mean, just
Well, they were-
part-time for the city.
They were in a different department. So they were in a different department though, and we had those issues where, and it very well may be a discussion for another time and place, but we do have issues.
You
with-
can't drive, it's impossible to drive 24 hours a day and say, I'm not tired. It just can't be done.
Not safety. We often say that, you know, with that, it's kind of the equivalent, imagine, if you will, you know, many people have made the trip, it takes about 24 hours to drive to Florida. And imagine driving to Florida in a snowstorm.
I did it 3 times and fell asleep twice.
Yeah, and at times, it's a real white knuckle adventure. My hat's off to the guys that do it. The hills are treacherous, the roads are treacherous. You got, 35,000 pounds of steel and equipment.
Parking is the greatest.
Yeah, and it's a very fatiguing, exhausting work. It may not seem that way, but there's 100 things going on inside and outside that truck. The weather doesn't help you. You get snow blindness. You get almost like white line fever when that snow's coming at you. You're out of sync. It's the middle of the night. Your body's out of whack. Your sleep cycle's out of whack, and you've got all the other issues as you said. You got tight town, a lot of cars, small streets, people who, the old saying, don't.
Property damage is bad enough, God forbid if somebody gets killed, an employee or a citizen, either way, God forbid that happens.
Well, again, you design, I think, anyway, that, you plan for the worst and hope for the best, and you design for the, to the best of our ability, for the optimal. And you strive to get as close to that as you can. So that's all we're trying to do. We understand that, as the financial situation has unfolded over the years, and a lot of that came from the state level down, as the pressure increased on the general fund and cuts have been made. We understand it's not really financially feasible to just double the staff in the street department on a full-time basis. It's not feasible.
That's why I was hoping that maybe out of that, and if we can, we can't, maybe we can find, give them 2 full-time guys, plus some part-time people.
The main thing with us in the winter, we would appreciate any and all additional help, but the main thing that happens with wintertime and snow control in particular is that turnover and the numbers involved. As is the case in many other departments within the city, if there's overtime and someone is needed, oftentimes you're looking for 1, 2, maybe 3 guys. In our case, we're looking for 12 men, and we're looking for 12 men about every 12 to 16 hours, and they're just not there. So,
This plan, Bob, definitely is a good plan to help alleviate, at least getting you some part-time people. So that this will be sunshine and brought before us, and it'll be a third reading process, I believe, and we will be able to address any concerns as we get towards the winter months and seeing what the forecasts are. So that's legislation number 1. Any other comments on that particular piece of legislation? The second piece of legislation is authorizing an auction of city-owned assets, mainly a bunch of old cars and equipment and stuff that will be auctioned. Dave, you want to take equipment and just highlight that?
Yeah, we've kind of reached out to our departments to see what vehicles that are no longer in use and equipment that we can sell at auction that would kind of fit the purpose, fit the good outlet of a public auction. So we've got the list together. We're going to get that to the city manager's office. But we'd ask that if you could suspend the second and third reading on this so that we can get this auction underway before it gets too cold.
All right, so, yeah, I don't have an issue with that because this is just assets we have that we're not using, and we can get some money out of it, so let's go for that. So that will be sunshine and propose to suspend it. Yes, Tim?
Yeah, just, and we're also with the two comments, quick ones. The auction, we're going to look at ways to do that online. We've had, or I've had a little experience with like govdeals.com and some other, really expand the number of people, bidders on your items, and I think our auction could be perhaps much more successful than it's been in past years. Just a quick comment on the discussion we had with the employees, and I know council is well aware of this, but of course Bob's department, M&R, is funded out of general fund, and general fund, as I would just reiterate, is the fund under most pressure. Anything we can do to stabilize general fund, I think would be a good thing, and would have a positive effect our operations.
Tim, also the number 4, if you want to just go back into the police court and fire facilities plan for a few minutes before we.
I can. I'll try to wrap this up or summarize this report as quickly as I can. I just wanted to, as a follow-up, we had our presentation. I know the report was dated June 30th on the feasibility study with police court and fire department facilities. The concepts, again, we're renovating the existing facility. Concept 2 was the relocation to the Justice Center. Concept 3 was renovation and construction of new police fire, and the court would go in the renovated municipal building. That would be a multi-phased approach. I just wanted to reiterate the administration's opinion that the city pursue concept 3 for our planning purposes. Concept 3 would require the city to stay the course for the next several years, prepare for a multi-phase investment. I would see phase 1 not commencing until somewhere in the 2018 timeframe, and then each of the different phases proceeding as stated on my memo. So you're looking at a project that would be about a 7 or 8 year project, I would think at this point. The concept does provide the benefit of solving the city's long-term fire department facility issues. Police would remain in the central business district, part of the city's future planned investments. If we have a streetscape downtown, we have a civic plaza downtown, I would imagine we'd want to also retain city operations downtown. We wouldn't have a vacant building in the downtown. Keeps our operations centralized. It avoids investing city funds into a non-city facility. It has had some discussion, some concerns raised on leaking, parking, and access concerns. If we were to go follow concept 2 to the Justice Center, the cost to renovate the municipal building and make parkable will be another $1.1 million. The cost to mothball it is unknown. So I think for planning purposes, we're about to start our CIP, capital improvements planning for 2016 through 2020. My recommendation to council would be that we pursue concept 3, and I want to be clear. The issue of the safety service wage tax is a completely separate issue. That's to in a nutshell, really add safety forces and stabilize general fund and improve our safety forces. What this report was all about was what are our long-term solutions for our police, court, and fire facilities. And so I think that's a very important distinction. But I suppose, Mr. Chairman, I'm recommending and suggesting that the city look at a long-term approach and solution to those facility issues.
Okay. And because we're getting close to 7:30, there's a couple of things I'd like to have. I'd like to have that number 4 continue under Chairman Paul and the Safety Committee for discussions under there. And Willie, your committee, my committee, also keep that thoughts as to these plans as we get towards the fall budget process, because that'll be important. So I'm putting that back into your report for a while. The numbers we'll work on when we work on the budget and along with the budget hearings. And then as far as the remainder, Tim, I'd ask you for number 6 and number 7 to address that in your report during Mayor Director meeting. And I'll address the schedules under my committee report. Okay. At this time, I know a couple minutes prior to the started the regular session, so I have to close the finance meeting to give us a minute or two break.
Second.
Thank you.